Good for you. Better than high fructose.
Thanks, appreciate it.
I have it on my own.
Comes on the news.
The Senate will please come to order. And good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Today we will have a moment of silence to gather our thoughts and think about the beautiful day that we'll be inside for. Thank you. Please rise if you're able for our pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any announcements? Senator from Chittenden Central.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. Welcome back to everyone. I wanted to begin with just a couple of words about what folks might expect today and tomorrow. Very loose 30,000-foot view of those 2 days. This morning, because most of the work we're going to be concentrating on will originate in the House, this morning will be a somewhat light, somewhat short session in the Senate. We'll adjourn at that point until this afternoon, 1 o'clock. That'll be our longer session because by then we'll have received, hopefully, most of the work from the House. So we will at that point go for the afternoon till we complete our work from the day. We will certainly be back here tomorrow morning, but under at least an optimistic scenario, we may be done with our work tomorrow. In the event that something goes wrong, which has never happened in this, we might be here longer. But it has always been our goal to get you in and out in the most efficient manner. I think the prep work that we've done for this session will have that end. So with that said, Mr. President, I would like to move that H429, an act relating to miscellaneous changes to election laws, be recommitted to the Committee on Government Operations.
Now, the senator from Chittenden Central has moved that H429, an act relating to miscellaneous changes to election laws, be recommitted to the Committee on Government Operations. Are you ready for the question? Senator from Addison.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the chair of Government Operations, I support sending this bill back to committee and think it's the right thing to do. However, I'm very reluctant to do so because there are some very important elections provisions in this bill that will probably be foregone because of it. But we were not able to get to an agreement that would move the full bill forward. The governor has made clear that he does not support ranked choice voting and would veto a bill that has ranked choice voting in it. So that is one barrier. And then there were other provisions in the bill that were concerns for members of this chamber. But I want to say, I guess, a shout out to some of the voters who will be impacted by us not moving this bill. Yesterday and over the last several weeks, I talked extensively with voters represented by the American Federation for the Blind. These are voters who have a really hard time accessing elections and the ballot box because of their disability. And there are other voters with disabilities that do as well. And the electronic ballot return would have enabled blind voters and other voters to vote independently. And by not moving this forward, this delays their ability to do so. Similarly with overseas and military voters. So I'm really hoping that we can move forward with a little bit more time and feel comfortable with the electronic ballot return in order to not disenfranchise these voters. I also want to thank the Clerks Association. We worked extensively with the Association for Clerks and Treasurers on provisions that would have made elections more efficient and easier to administer for clerks. We all know how important clerks are to elections and to our towns. And so I regretfully can't move forward with that provision. I'm hoping we can get back to it to make it easier for clerks to administer our elections. And there are other important ethics provisions and other things in the bill. But I know that at this point, the best thing to do is to bring it back into committee, have the Government Operations Committee work on it next year, and hopefully move pieces of it forward. So I thank the Pro Tem for making the motion and hope that the Chamber will support it. Thank you.
Question is, shall the Senate refer the bill H429 to the Committee on Government Operations? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed indicate by saying nay. The ayes have it, and you have recommitted H429 to the Committee on Government Operations. Senator from Chittenden Central, did you want to make your other suspension motion now or later?
We are going to hold that motion, so
Okay.
we would look to JRS 28.
Okay. Are there any other announcements? Seeing none, we have JRS 28 to introduce and pass. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
JRS 28, joint resolution relating to compensation of members of the General Assembly during the remainder of the 2023 biennial session. Whereas, in order that the 2023 biennial session of the General Assembly may achieve an orderly adjournment, provide reasonable compensation to members of the General Assembly for their services, and to preserve the funds of the state, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that notwithstanding the provisions of 32 VSA sections 1051A1 and 1052A1, providing for a weekly rate of compensation commencing June 20, 2023, members of the General Assembly shall be entitled to compensation for services equal to a daily rate of 1/4 of the annual adjusted weekly compensation set forth in sections 1051A1 and 1052A1, and reimbursement for expenses at the daily rate established in sections 1051A3 and 1052B of Title 32 for each day on which their respective houses shall sit and the member attends for the remainder of the 2023 biennial session, except that no member shall receive compensation for more than 4 days in any week.
Now you've heard the reading of the resolution. The question is, shall the Senate adopt the resolution on its part? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed indicate by saying nay. The ayes have it, and you have adopted JRS 28. That brings us to the orders of the day. Apparently, I don't even need to gavel us into the orders of the day because I would then be gaveling us out of the orders of the day. But I would assume under now the closing announcements, there may be some motions by the Senator from Chittenden Central.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this point, we'd like to move down the calendar to S80, followed by S103.
I believe that will require a motion to suspend the rules in order to take because they're on the notice calendar, to relieve them.
Fair enough. So I would ask that the Senate suspend its rules in order to bring up S80 and S103 for immediate consideration.
The Senator from Chittenden Central has moved that the Senate suspend its rules in order to take up for immediate consideration on bills that are on the notice calendar, S80, an act relating to miscellaneous environmental conservation subjects, and S103, an act relating to amending the prohibitions against discrimination. Are you ready for the question?
Ask for a brief recess.
The Senator from Franklin has asked for a brief recess. We'll take a recess till the fall of the gavel.
Caroline? During this session that we just did, he didn't.
Senate will please come to order. Senator from Chittenden Central.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to withdraw my previous motion and substitute a motion, if I might.
Without objection, we'll consider the previous motion withdrawn. Senator from Chittenden Central.
So at this time, I would move that the Senate suspend its rules and move S80 onto the action calendar from the notice calendar, and we will wait on S103.
Now, the Senator from Chittenden Central has moved that the Senate suspend its rules in order to take up for immediate consideration as appearing on the notice calendar S80, an act relating to miscellaneous environmental conservation subjects. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed indicate by saying nay. The ayes have it, and you have suspended your rules in order to take up S80. So we now have up for consideration S80. S80 passed the Senate, and the House considered the same and recommends that the bill be amended. Please, the pending question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment? Senator from Addison.
Mr. President, I wanted to report out on S80, an act relating to miscellaneous environmental conservation subjects. The amendment from the House appears on today's calendar, beginning on page 3345. In short, the Natural Resources and Energy Committee is recommending the Senate's concurrence. The S80 was maybe a little hard to recall, but it was a relatively lengthy list of housekeeping and maintenance items that the Agency of Natural Resources had brought to the legislature. We worked through them, came to an agreement on that, and passed that in the Senate already. The House appended information, requests for information, and they appear again on 3345. So the first is reports back to the legislature on the revolving loan funds. The interest and concern there was that we've received a great deal of money through ARPA, and that as that money, as we no longer receive those funds, the request for information would put the legislature in a better position to evaluate the opportunities that we have with the funds that will remain and will be developed in future budgets. So that's 6A and 6B. One is also on revolving loan funds. Section 7 on page 3346 is a new study, an environment riparian protection program, and it involves creating a stakeholder process to evaluate strategies to protect riparian buffers, and it delivers a report back to this legislature at the end of December 2023. So in both cases, it's a request for more information in order to allow the legislature to do better work in the coming session, and we recommend concurrence.
So the question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal amendment on S80? Are you ready for the question? Senator from Bennington.
Mr. President, I'd like to inquire the reporter of the bill.
The Senator from Madison is interrogated as a reporter.
President, in reading section 7, I'm extremely confused. I don't know who the stakeholders are, and it doesn't identify anyone. And we're giving a job to the Agency of Natural Resources. So maybe you could enlighten me, Mr. President, as to what is a stakeholder process to develop recommendations on the implementation?
Thank you for that question. I would have to come back to you with further information on the details of the membership of that stakeholder organization process. But as represented by the secretary, the ANR has on a regular basis outreach to affected parties. They include everyone from landowners to regional planning commissions, conservation groups, and the public at large. And so we're relying basically on their, I think I would call it a generic method of outreach to the public and interested parties to bring them into a conversation about the protection of riparian zones and buffers.
I thank the reporter for the explanation, but I find it unhelpful that we don't identify clearly what it is the agency's responsible to do. Develop recommendations on the implementation of the protection program. I don't know who the stakeholders are. I'm not sure what it does. So I thank you, but I'm left with concerns. Thank you, reporter.
If,
The senator from Bennington has the floor, and so I believe, thank you. Are you,
I'm finished, Mr. President. I'm concerned. I'm deeply troubled, actually.
Senator from Windsor?
Perhaps we could take a short break. The Legislative Council is here, and I have a notion of who those stakeholders are because we have discussed in the legislature riparian buffers for a very long time. So I'm pretty clear on those stakeholders, but we do have our Legislative Council here, so maybe we could clear it up. If we could take a short break.
The senator from Windsor has requested a brief recess, which I will grant in a moment, although I have to say, when you looked over here and said council was here, I was thinking Elijah was here as well, but now I see that council is in the back.
I'm sure he's here too.
We'll take a brief recess.
When they saw there.
Senate will please come to order. The pending question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment on S80? Are you ready for the question? If so, Senator from Addison.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I thank the Senator from Bennington for the question, and based on consultation with Legislative Council, Senator from Bennington, Senator from Essex have agreed that although the language may not be entirely standard, the stakeholder process is a general process that is broadly applied to issues, and it's going to be used in this case in the same way to deliver a report to the legislature by the end of the year.
The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal amendment on S80? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed indicate by saying nay. The ayes have it, and you have concurred with the House proposal amendment on S80. Are there any further announcements, Senator from Chittenden Central?
I believe, Mr. President, at this point, that's the extent of the business we can take up. So I would move that pending announcements, the Senate stand in adjournment until 1 p.m. this afternoon.
Pending announcements, Senator from Chittenden Central has moved that the Senate stand adjourned until 1 p.m. Are there any announcements? Senator from Bennington.
President, Senate Judiciary will meet at 11 o'clock. If members can be there to discuss S6, which is on the calendar, or actually on the notice calendar. So if senators can be there at 11, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements? Senator from Caledonia.
I am standing up to let the committee members for appropriations sort of a notice that we might have to meet with the companion bill that has been sent out to all members. I believe action will occur in the House this morning in the other body. So if you would we will send a note out, but don't be surprised if we try to get together just to go over the bill and the funding that's associated with it. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements? By way of announcements, I want to thank the Senator from Windsor and her lovely garden for the bouquet on the day of this fine day. Thank you. Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, the Senator from Chittenden Central has moved that the Senate now stand adjourned until 1 p.m. this afternoon. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed indicate by saying nay. The ayes have it, and the Senate will stand adjourned until 1 p.m.